Hi everyone, Kenfinity here, and here's my review of Airplane, directed by Jim Abrams, David Zucker, and Jerry Zucker, the Zucker brothers. I said Zucker, starring Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, Leslie Nielsen, Peter Graves, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Lloyd Bridges, Laura Patterson, Robert Stack, Steven Strucker, Otto, Jim Abrams, and Frank Ashmore. Great cast, it really is. And this film is about a former military pilot who is trying to get his old flame back, his old girlfriend, Flame, who's a stewardess at one of the biggest, airports, airlines, and this is one of the biggest airports. And it's a flight to Chicago. And everyone is just preparing for this awesome flight. The pilot's are ready as always. The passengers are, getting everything talked about in their seat. And, the pilot, he is just making sure that he can get Elaine. Her name is Elaine. His name is Ted. Trying to make sure that, he can rekindle everything with Elaine while also dealing with the trauma of the war. Like, he hasn't flown in 6 years since the war. Dun, dun, dun. So he gets on the plane and we meet the pilots, who are the awesomest team. And one of the pilots looks a lot like a famous NBA basketball player. And, and everyone is just, getting settled on the plane while Ted is telling pretty much all of his... He sits next to like 4 different people, tells them all about the war. And they are not adamant about hearing about the war, sadly. And that is not what happens, in any second time. They all get stopped for making the worst, getting rid of boredom decision. So he is just trying to get Elaine, to see, how he is doing everything after the war. This long after the war too, I might add. I should add everything. And there's so many passengers. We got these 2 men who speak jive. The best kind of jive, cold turkey. And we have this nice couple, but the wife's wearing, he never does this. He never does this back home, But he might want to do something different. Like, there's so many different kinds of passengers on this plane. Yeah, and then there's a nun. It's amazing. There's so many, different, comedic and just, regular relationships that are coming to fruition and are, going great like they should on this plane and everything. And it's mainly just all these interactions that these different passengers have until the first pilot gets taken out, then the second, and long story short, they all get taken out. So Elaine and the other stewardess, they're like, what can they do? Because it first happened because one of the passengers got food poisoning, so they talked to a doctor who had his who was warming up his stethoscope immediately. He must have been warming them up and everything. If he had him in his ears, I said, sir, are you a doctor? He said, yes. He said, yes. Yeah, and so he helps them out, was it, how can he diagnose all of these sick passengers? How could blue? And then Ted, he becomes, because one of the stewardesses, because Elaine, she doesn't want to talk to Ted after, all the things that they went through. And you see exactly. But also you understand, like, it was during the war, things are different now, So he becomes the new pilot, and Elaine's like, oh, Ted, what are you doing? Saving this plane, Elaine. Yeah, and it's mainly just hearing all these funny little stories while this plane is being saved. And then a mission control, flight control, the control tower is getting the best pilot to guide Ted, and he actually knows Ted from the war, to guide Ted and everything back home. And if you think things are crazy on the plane, things are even crazier in his command center, and everyone's, serious. We gotta get this plane back, ready for Chicago, everything. But then there's this one employee who's having the time of his life. This man, he's bald with brown hair, He's having the time of his life while they're trying to save this plane. If you've seen it, you know exactly what I mean. Yeah. And it was kind of hard getting this pilot. Well, it was hard for the man who had to get the pilot because the pilot's dog was on it. Well, the pilot's wife is trying to welcome the man into their home and everything. And yeah, there's this autopilot who's literally an inflatable auto named Otto. Yeah, and if you remember when I called off the names, you know, his name is actually Otto. It's this inflatable dummy who's the perfect, you know, lightweight navigator for this awesome machinery. Yeah, but Ted, he stays as the pilot and everything. And it's not the softest landing, but it works. Yeah, and the pilot, he guides, you know, Ted through it and everything. And they make it to Chicago. I know it was super fast, but there's so many jokes. This is what happens for the story. It's such an hilarious film. It really takes the, you know, the disaster dramas and just makes them so, you know, so fun to think about because definitely it's poking fun all over the place. Oh, come on, with the 10-foot pole. But you see how they pay attention to all the serious aspects of those disaster movies. Because if you pay attention to the main actors, they're playing it seriously. You know, like Ted, Elaine, the doctor, they're all playing it seriously. It's just that the most ridiculous things and ridiculous characters are around them. But they took a serious disaster drama and just added funny. They sprinkled in, like, this is a unique parody because they just sprinkled in the comedy. Yeah, well, they're still acting serious, right? Yeah, well, it's one of them because, you know, there's so many other comedy movies that are, you know, take the seriousness and just add comedy in there, but they do it so seriously. They just add the comedy in there. Literally, like, if you just focus on the main characters, they're dead serious. You know, they're all dead serious. I mean, they have to be, of course. Yeah, and the comedy is just falling like the altitude when the plane wasn't being piloted by any of the pilots, you know. And the autopilot, you know, Otto. And when you watch the film, you know what this means. At the very end, it's the most out of the ordinary. Most unexpected, I like that, ending you could ever watch. It's amazing. Yeah, this film is hysterical. But it also just, it kind of surprises you with all the details that they pick. It's like, when you watch serious movies like this, you know, they pick fun at like all those different things. Like, he's like, yo, take a handle, get a hold of yourself, Oh, they really have fun with that. It's hilarious. Yeah, I think it's wonderful. They use the drama to add in the jokes, make it even more hilarious. Like, they're playing it serious, so it's so unexpected when the comedy's gonna fall into place. It's amazing that, you know, you have no idea. It's, you know, there's other movies, comedies, you know, parodies like this, but this one is the most surprising, I think. It's like, you really don't know when the comedy's gonna sprinkle in. You know, it's hilarious, but also engaging. It's a core, but like engaging in like a thriller kind of way, like what's gonna happen, but it's still hilarious. Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Please hit the notification bell to know when all new videos come out. And thank you everyone who's checking out the channel for the first time. You know, who's doing all the comments, everything. And, you know, everyone who's just enjoying all of these movies, more drawings, specific kind of drawings, you know, that relate to the main thing on the channel on the way. And please just stay safe, everything. And these videos will last infinity.